This is Richard Sewell, your instructor for HPA 444, Strategic Planning and Budgeting. And I want to talk to you a bit about week 5, where we are looking at directional strategies and developing strategic alternatives. It's important that you understand what Ginter is saying about these issues, because these are the things that are most visible in a strategic plan and a strategy that you might develop. It's equally important, though, that you continue to refer to the benefits of strategic thinking, which is that chapter that I wrote that was the reading assignment, I believe, a couple of weeks ago, because together, Ginter and the benefits of strategic thinking, I think, give you everything you need to be able to write mission statements, goals, and develop alternatives. So I want to just give you some highlights that I want you to pay particular attention to. It's a good idea to read chapter 5 and read chapter 6, and then look through the slides that are already posted for week 5. And at the end of both of those sets of slides, the assignment is there that you are to post your response to on the discussion board. And the instructions are on the discussion board for you to refer to those. Let me just point out a few things. First of all, about directional strategies. Now, don't get thrown off by that term. All directional strategies are mission statements, goals, values, those kinds of products that we talk about in planning. And I think one of the objectives, the learning objectives for reading chapter 5, is really so that you might be able to write those directional strategies, and that's extremely important. I think that you also will notice that in the benefits of strategic thinking, in that other article, there's a fair amount of emphasis on objectives, and objectives are hardly mentioned in the Ginter article as a directional strategy. One of the ways we think about the distinction between goals and objectives is that goals really are endpoints that you want to reach within a time frame, but that time frame is really shaped by the planning horizon of the planning that you are doing. In other words, if you're doing a 10-year plan, then your goals will reflect the target that you want to achieve at the end of 10 years. If you're doing a 5-year plan, 5 years, but you don't specify that year in the goal. A more specific way to say that is that a goal is a combination between an indicator, a measure of health status or a measure of the performance of a health service, and a target level. So when you write a statement that combines the indicator with the target level, you've written a goal. Objectives, on the other hand, which again, Ginter doesn't say that much about, is really total or partial achievement of that target within a specified time frame that you would actually include in the objective statement. An example would be by 2016, a 10% reduction. You would want to see a 10% reduction in some disease, or you would want to see cost containment at the level of 5%. But you would be specific about the target point where you want to achieve that. So those are the distinctions between goals and objectives, and I'm emphasizing that a little bit because Ginter doesn't really do that much with objectives. The other thing is there's this, when we looked at the theoretical foundations of strategic planning, and we talked about marketing and epidemiology, one of the things that Ginter does do a good job with is to talk about the influence of external forces and the influence of internal forces on shaping strategy within an organization. It's those external forces that you must be aware of, including competitors. And don't just think of competitors as organizations that are in the for-profit world and the business world. Not-for-profit and even governmental agencies do have competitors vendors that are competing for the loyalty and the utilization of targeted customers for the service that they provide. So that's an important issue to remember. So I think that Ginter gives you, and the slides give you, good definitions for mission, for values, for vision. One of the exercises we did here at the School of Public Health when we were doing strategic planning was to give the faculty a masthead for a newspaper. And this newspaper was dated 10 years from now. And we asked them as an exercise, what would you like for people to read about the School of Public Health 10 years from now? Those became the hopes, and that is what you translate into a vision statement. Now, one of the things that Ginter does, which I think is very helpful, it gives you a map for writing a mission statement, one for writing a vision statement, and one for writing a value statement. So make sure you follow that, and if you have questions about that, post it on the discussion board, and Jennifer Brothers or I will try to answer. Then there's another component in Chapter 5 on critical success factors. Now these are things that must be accomplished in order for the organization to be successful. So make sure you read that and get a level of understanding on that. In developing action plans, which is another component of Chapter 5, think of an action plan as a work program for the organization. This is what people in the organization are going to actually do as a result of your having a strategic plan. There's also some important information on governance. Many of you, after getting an advanced degree in public health, are going to be working with the ultimate leadership of an organization, which is their governing board. And remember, they are responsible for fiduciary oversight of the organization, making sure the organization has sufficient resources to function, but they're also responsible for quality. So this is the group that represents owners in the for-profit world and people in the community in the not-for-profit and government world, and Chapter 5 does include some of their responsibilities. And then finally on Chapter 5, at the end of the slides, there is an assignment, and that's what I want you to post responses to on Blackboard. It really has you developing a mission and vision statement for ABC long-term care. And there's a description of that that's in the chapter. And you would do that based upon the assistance that are provided in the slides and in the textbook. Now let's move on to Chapter 6, which is also a part of your Week 5 reading assignment, and that one is developing strategic alternatives. I've often said that you're really not doing planning unless there's a consideration of alternatives. You might be doing problem solving, or you might be having a discussion, but planning always involves alternatives. Now again, going back to the benefits of strategic thinking, there's a very good approach to alternatives that's in that article. And it basically says that alternatives come from your having identified the underlying drivers of a problem. What's the cause of the problem? And then coming up with alternatives for eliminating or reducing those alternatives. So that's where alternatives come from. They come from a strategy of trying to reduce or eliminate the underlying causes of a problem. And you remember from the planning process that what a problem actually is a gap between desired indicator levels and current indicator levels. There is in Chapter 6 a good decision logic for strategy formulation. Make sure you get comfortable with that. And there's a strategic thinking map that has a hierarchy of strategic decisions and alternatives. That's important because at the end of the slides for Chapter 6, there's an assignment, and you're asked, and I want you to post responses to this on the discussion board, you're asked to look at that strategic thinking map and then come up with um, examples of three types of strategies. And it could be a strategy related to market development, to merger, to uh, alliances, uh, and some of the sources that you can use for this are in the assignment. It's suggested that you look at the Wall Street Journal or Business Week, but you can also use the strategic plan for Illinois for Health Information Exchange, which is posted on Blackboard as an example of a strategic and operational plan. You can use that to come up with your example of three types of strategies. So again, I wanted to really bring home the importance of the content of Chapter 5 and Chapter 6 in Ginter. And I think if you do the two assignments that are at the end of the slides, I think you will grasp this, because you've heard these terms before, like mission and vision and values and goals, but we want to pin those down and make sure you understand them. Again, any questions you have, either post them, and that's the preferable way so everybody can see the question and the answer, or send email to Jennifer Brothers or to me. Hope you're having a good day.